Hi, my name is Marion Douglas, and as many of you know, I'm an entrepreneur and life coach. And I got an email the other day, and the email was a request to deal with the issue of fear. Now, I know that in this whole conversation about creating wealth and accomplishing extraordinary results in your life, fear is the biggest subject area there is. Okay, so I'm going to boil this down and try to make it simple. I've heard people deal with fear in many different ways. Philosophically, I've heard it theologically from a religious point of view. I've heard it in many different ways. People dealing with it and what it is that we actually feel. Okay, I'm going to deal with it from the grassroots where the rubber meets the road because what it basically boils down to is that in my mind, when I was out there and I was doing what it was I was doing and trying to accomplish some of the things that I was trying to accomplish, the issue was there were many times when I was just terrified. What the heck was I terrified about? So the psychologists tell us that uh, the biggest fear that people have is the fear of public speaking. Now, where the heck would something like that come from? All right, that's really what the issue is. So, and the whole fear of public speaking is attached to, in my experience, it's attached to a lot of the fears that we experience when we're trying to create extraordinary life, extraordinary results in our lives. It's about fear of being accepted. It's about fear of being embarrassed. It's about those kinds of fears. And and here's what I know about it from experience. Not only from the experience, but from other people's experience and from dealing with it such that people actually came out on the other side of it. And it comes down to this. That kind of fear is a was about for me, it was about what I the perception that I had of myself. Okay. And every person that I talked to and worked with, it came down to something like that. Okay. I had a fear about, or feelings of inadequacy about being black. I had fear of inadequacies about being smart. I had fear of inadequacies about being powerful, about stuff like that. It came down to the opinion that I had of myself, the interpretation that I had of myself. Okay, that's what it basically boils down to. Regardless of how it is that that happened, and I get that everybody's got stories. I have my own stories about things that people said when I was a kid, as an example, things that were done to me, um, and I totally get it. I totally get that you have your stories, and I totally get that at the time that that happened, those were terrible experiences, and you developed some beliefs around about yourself around those experiences. I get it. Okay, but the issue is not whether I get it or not. It's not even whether you get it or not. It's about what decisions did you make about yourself when it happened. Okay, and for me, I made decisions about who I thought I was on a very deep level. Okay, and so and I hung on to those for many years. And as I grew up, and then circumstances started to happen. As an example, I wanted to go into business. My mom and dad were both teachers. I didn't want to be a teacher, but I wanted to go into business for myself. And I found myself in front of what I considered at the time to be some very powerful people because they were all business people. They were business people and politicians and people with degrees and all that kind of stuff. In that environment, feeling that I was not as good as the people that I was standing in front of, I had some very real, what it seemed like real experiences there. I felt anxiety. My hands got clammy. I get sweaty, palms. Um, and there were days when I was just terrified. And nobody knew it. I was really good at covering it up and pretending that it wasn't happening. But the reality was that it was happening. Okay. And it happened particularly when I was dealing with people who were very rich, very powerful, or very well educated. That's when it was highest. And so when I finally got down to understanding what it was that was going on, it finally got down to the point where it didn't have nothing to do with them. It didn't have anything to do with what they have accomplished or who they were in the world, how the world saw them. It had to do with how I saw me. That's what it boiled down to. And to the degree that I saw myself as being as good and as powerful as anybody, my fears went away. At that point in my life, when I didn't see myself that way, I was terrified. And when people would put me up in front of a crowd, and they did it many, many times, um, I had all kinds of anxiety about that. Okay, so here's what I finally figured out. At some point in time during my upbringing, and it might have been a bunch of different occasions. Don't go back and try to figure out what it was that did it to you. Just understand that there was times when you felt inadequate. Somebody said something or did something, and at the moment that that happened, you made some decisions about yourself that stuck with you. Okay, and it's just like something similar to people that make decisions when something they think is bad happens. Like a good example is a woman in a relationship and a guy cheats on her. Then all of a sudden she develops all of these kinds of belief around guys, their dogs, they can't be trusted and all that kind of stuff, and then carries that belief through every relationship that she goes into, and then wonders why none of them end up working. Well, it's the same thing about your self-esteem. Something may have happened, and usually does, and around that you made some decisions about yourself that you've been carrying with you through your whole life. All right, and to the degree that you're willing to hang on to whatever decisions that you made about yourself around that, you will feel fear. You'll feel the results of that. Okay, my coaching is get rid of it. Now, books and tapes that deal with this issue are work very well when you go into situations where you start to feel the anxiety coming up. Those situations right there are telling you where your fear actually is. They're pointing a finger to what your fear is about. The whole issue of getting over that is to walk through that. The only way that you're going to get to the other side of that fear is if you walk through that place where it comes up the most for you. That's how I ended up dealing with it. So we're going to deal with this a lot over the next couple of days, but that's my coaching today. It is a self-esteem issue. Just remember that to the degree that you build up your self-esteem, your fears will dissipate greatly.